Hello, Grow Kids Curriculum friends. If you don't know me, my name is Elle. I am one of the co-founders of Stuff You Can Use and Grow Curriculum, and I am here today to show you this fancy little tool that we just made for you that I'm very excited about because I don't know about you, but I love a spreadsheet. I love organizing things. If you are in children's ministry, I feel like you might have that in common with me. So hopefully you like the spreadsheet tool as much as I do. But like I said, this tool exists to make Grow Kids a little bit easier for you. The way that Grow Kids curriculum works is we have 7 different years of curriculum that you can choose from. You can also like mix and match and make your own scope and sequence, but we typically recommend taking one of our 1-year bundles and using that for the whole year. It's nice and easy for you. It's planned out in a cohesive scope and sequence. So that's what we recommend. The thing with our scope and sequence is there's 7 years of it, and you can start at any time. So of those 7 years, you can choose any of them to start with, and that's the beauty. It's like very customizable, very editable. But we also know that when you are getting a package of pre-built curriculum and trying to fit it into your upcoming school year, you're going to run into some questions like, hey, how does this fit with the upcoming holidays on the calendar? Is it going to line up with Easter? Is it going to line up with Christmas? What if, I meet on Wednesdays and maybe your curriculum assumes I meet on Sundays? Like, how do I make this work for me? So what we did is we made this little tool that's going to help you take our bundles of curriculum for the whole year and then figure out how to fit it onto your annual calendar in a way that is super simple, and it's going to leave you with like few surprises, so that when you are looking at your whole year, you know exactly where things are going to fall, and you won't suddenly be like in the middle of the year, wait a minute, it's Palm Sunday and I don't have a Palm Sunday lesson. This will handle all of that for you. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the big picture of this spreadsheet here and how to use it. But then what we're going to do is we're going to actually dive into every single year of Grow Kids curriculum. And I'm going to show you my personal recommendations for how you can fit this onto your 2026 to 27 school year. So if that is interesting to you, stick around, pay attention to the timestamps on the video so that you can get to the bundle that you want and see how we recommend using it in that school year. And if you don't care about that, maybe you're just like getting a feel for this, or maybe you have your own plan, you don't need those details, then don't worry about it. You can just watch the beginning part of this video and you'll be good to go. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so to get us started, let me give you a walkthrough of what is in this spreadsheet. So you'll see it right here. It is a Google Sheets document. And the reason we built it in Google Sheets is that you can easily copy it and make your own copy and edit it. I'm going to show you the unedited version for what you will just see by default. And then we'll get into what an edited version of this will look like in a second. But so first of all, you've got these tabs at the bottom. I'm going to zoom in just so this is a little bit easier for you to read at a glance. So let's zoom. Okay, so this first tab right here is all series. This is going to show you every single series that exists in Grow Kids, and it's grouped by our 1-year bundles. So maybe you're using the Apple bundle. Then you're going to see every single series that exists within that bundle. And actually it's broken down by week and not just by series. So you'll see there are 52 weeks of teaching in this bundle, and it's all laid out for you here in the default order. So the first thing you're going to see is week, just so you can see what the default order is. The next thing you're going to see is the series, the title and the week number. Next is your topic. So Timeless is a series about the prophets. And then you've got this column called Holiday. And this is where we are putting like the major important holidays that could impact your teaching calendar. So let's scroll down and I'll show you what they are. So the first one is Christmas. Of course, that's an important one. And it's typically the first holiday that you're going to encounter if you are starting in August with your school year. And so we always do a Christmas series. So it'll be like 4 or 5 weeks that's on Christmas. But typically within that Christmas series, there's only 1 week that actually talks about the birth of Jesus. So we mark that for you. So this week right here, in this, we're just looking at the Apple bundle as an example. Follow the Star week 3 is where we actually talk about Jesus being born. So if you're trying to line that up really perfectly with Christmas week, that is the week that you want. Then we're going to scroll down. The next holiday that you might encounter is going to be Palm Sunday and or Good Friday. Those happen within the same week, of course, Holy Week. But typically for a kids ministry lesson, we're only focusing on one of those at a time. So in some years, you're going to see we focus on Palm Sunday, whereas in other years, we focus more on the events of Good Friday. But either way, we label those here for you so that you can see where they fall. After that, of course, is Easter Sunday, and you'll see we have a little rock emoji, reminiscent of the rock that was rolled away from the tomb. Get it? We love emojis around here. Okay, Easter Sunday, that'll show you where that falls on the calendar. We also put in here, and I know not every church celebrates this or recognizes this on an annual basis, but just in case you do, we do mark Ascension Sunday and we do mark Pentecost, so that if your church does recognize those specific Sundays, that you can see where they fall on the calendar. And if they are marked, that means we are specifically actually talking about the Ascension story or the first Pentecost. There are some years where we don't talk about either of them, or we might only talk about one, and if that is the case, then we just won't mark them. Okay, so that is how the holidays work. The other thing you're going to see here is that the background color of these cells changes from white to light gray, and that is just to help you easily see where we switch from one series to the next. So you'll see Timeless is a 5-week series. When it switches to In Season, it changes colors, and you'll see that all over the place. And that's going to just help you align that with the months of the calendar when we get to that. But we're not there yet, so just hang tight. But that's what that color change is there for. Okay, so this first tab, like I said, is all the series. It is every single bundle. But I know this is a lot to look at, so if you don't want to see all of them at once, we've also broken them up into individual tabs. So the first tab is standalone series. If you do not know this, we do have some standalone series that don't fit within any of the 1-year scope and sequences, and that's just to give you like more options. So we're not going to look at that in this video in detail, but just know that they are there if you would like to incorporate them into your scope and sequence planning. What we are going to look at though is each of the individual bundles, the ones that are marked by little emojis. So there's one for each of them. And then the really important thing I want to show you is this last tab. It is called the 2026 to 2027 Planner. We will create a new version of this for every upcoming school year, but for now, we have only included the 2026 to, oops, I have a typo. Let me fix it. 2026 to 2027 teaching calendar. And so what we want you to do here, I'm just going to run through the instructions. I do have instructions here for you. The first thing is we want you to check the dates, because the dates that we have included here is we've gone through and we've looked up every single Sunday in 2026 and 2027. And so we have put every Sunday here on the calendar. But you might have a different plan than what our default is. Like, for example, maybe you start in January. Maybe that's the beginning of your school year. Or maybe you'd meet on Wednesdays instead of Sundays. If that's the case, then what you're going to want to do here is you're going to want to open your calendar app and you're going to want to update all of these dates to be the days that you actually teach on. That's just going to make this a little bit easier for you and just make this make a little bit more sense for you and your unique context. So update those dates. And when you do, you're going to want to also update the calendars, or the holidays on the calendar, because we've already gone through and calculated those for you to show you where each of those holidays happen in 2026 and 2027. So if you're changing these dates, just know that the holidays are going to change too. So make sure you change those. So once your Sundays or Wednesdays or whatever day and your holidays are all up to date for what your unique teaching calendar is, what you're then going to do is you're going to just copy and paste all of the data from the bundle that you're using into these 3 columns. And I will show you how that works. But first, what we have to do is we have to make you a copy of this spreadsheet that you can actually edit, because by default, you won't be able to edit this. You got to make your own. So let me show you how to do that. Very, very simple. You're going to go to File, Make a Copy, and you can call it whatever you want. You could call it My Grow Kids Curriculum Scope and Sequence, and then you're going to make a copy. It's going to think for a second. And then this is your copy to do what you want with. So let's just say, hypothetically, you're going to do the Apple bundle, okay? So let's go through. We're going to copy all 3 of these columns. Whoops, scrolled a little far. Try that one more time. You're probably better at the copying than me. Copy. Then we're going to go to the 2026-2027 planner, and we're just going to paste. And look at that. They all pop up. So that's big picture how this spreadsheet works. What we're going to do next is we're going to actually go through every single bundle, and I'm going to show you what our recommendation is for 2026 and 2027. So stick around if you want all that information. So for those of you using the Apple bundle, we're going to start here and we're going to show you how this lines up with the 2026-2027 calendar and any updates that we recommend you making. So I've already copied and pasted all of the Apple bundle weeks into our little calendar here, and let's just scroll through and see how they line up. So first off, we've got the month of August. You can see this lines up really nicely with Timeless. So does In Season. So does Now You See Me. We're doing pretty good so far. We've got Top Secret lining up really beautifully with November. Follow the Star. Look at that. Christmas lines up perfectly. We're doing great. So your fall and winter, easy peasy, done. Now we're going to get to January, and you're going to start to see where these colors are no longer lining up, see where these different holidays are no longer lining up. This is our sign that we have to make a couple tweaks. But guys, don't worry, it's not a big tweak. I think there's really only one tweak that you really need to make in order to make all of this work. So let me just show you kind of like the way that I would approach this. For me, the most important thing is always going to be where Easter Sunday falls. So you can see if you look here, we're 1 week off. So it's not major, which is great, but we do need to figure out how do we like reorder this or adjust our calendar in order to get Easter Sunday 1 week earlier. So there's a lot of things that you could do that are different ranges of difficult or complicated. I'm going to give you what I think is the easy way, but the reason we gave this to you in a spreadsheet is because if you want to get complicated, maybe you want to like reorder a million things, maybe you want to do all sorts of stuff, then you can. But I'm going to show you what I think is the easiest way. Okay, so all you need to do is to get Easter Sunday and Palm Sunday like 1 week earlier. So let's keep that in the back of our minds. Then let's scroll down and just kind of see what else we're working with here. Okay. Everything else is lining up pretty nicely, but here's what I would do. In order to get these two holidays to bump up 1 week, what I think is going to be the simplest thing to do is to figure out how to take a week of this 5-week Easter series and move it. And maybe that sounds weird to you because you're like, well, but it's part of a series. Like maybe I'm not supposed to move it. Here's the thing, guys, this is your calendar. You can do whatever you want. If it were me, I would move it. So the series You're Invited, it is a party theme. And it is a 5-weeker, so it's already a little bit of a longer series. And I think you're going to be fine if you just cut one of these weeks off and use it for something else later. And because it's a party theme, it's a pretty neutral theme that you can use for a lot of different purposes. So if I'm planning my teaching calendar, some things I'm thinking about are like, okay, I do a lot of like outreaches maybe, and maybe sometimes I just need to kind of pull like a one-off week of teaching and put it somewhere in my calendar year. Maybe you already do that. Maybe you have a rhythm where like every so often you do like a special service, a special outreach Sunday or something like that. And so maybe you're already looking for ways to cut this calendar down a little bit. If that's you, great. This is going to be one of your solutions. So in the series You're Invited, what you need to know about this series is that these are all kind of like snapshots of moments leading up to Easter Sunday of circumstances where people were celebrating a variety of different things. And because they're like not super chronological, they're very easy to just pull one out and your series will not fall apart. It will be okay. So here's what I would recommend. Week 1 of You're Invited is actually a really great week for an outreach. This one is talking about how we are all invited to believe in Jesus. It's a super cool week. This one is talking about, this is Nicodemus and Jesus having a conversation about what it means to be born again. This is a great message that you can use for a wide variety of things. You could use it for maybe like a follow-up Sunday after VBS, assuming that you've got visitors from VBS coming to church for the first time. You could use it as like an end of the school year party because remember, it's a party theme, and that's like pretty easy to decorate for. You don't have to get crazy. So maybe you save it for the end of the school year. Maybe you save it for the beginning of the new school year. Maybe just save it for some kind of outreach that you do. Either way, I think it's one that you can pull out and use for a wide variety of things. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to, actually, let me copy it first. And then I'm going to delete and shift up And now look at that. Palm Sunday and Easter Sunday fit beautifully. But now you do have this extra week of curriculum that's kind of just like hanging around. And like I said, there's a lot of things that you could do with it. And what you do with it really depends kind of on you and what you are wanting to achieve with your teaching calendar. For me, I think what I would like to do is just put it at the very end because, like I mentioned, I think the beginning of the school year is a great time to just kind of bring back like a fun party theme. Like, hey, the summer is over, but like, which maybe is sad, but the new school year is starting, and like that's a reason to celebrate. And you could talk about how, because we all are invited to believe in Jesus, that as you go into the new school year, maybe there's somebody in your class that you can tell about Jesus this year. So it's a cool way to kind of get kids excited about the new school year for a variety of reasons. So I'm just going to put it right at the end. And actually, just to show that this is sort of like a standalone now, I'm going to change the color of it so it's white. Now, maybe you are thinking, okay, but these colors are no longer lining up. And listen, if this is important to you, I will not fight you on that. For me, this has never been important to me. It is, for me personally, as I'm leading a ministry, I don't personally need to start a new series on the first Sunday of the month. Maybe that's different for you. For me, I don't need to. So for me to start a new series on the last day of February instead of the first day of March, I don't care. So that's what I'm doing. Now, if this really bothers you, then maybe I wouldn't do this plan. But you could do something else. You could maybe put it, you could put it at the end of Extraordinary and kind of do like a one-off special day that is like a party. There's a lot of things that you could do. But the point is, the reason this is editable is because we want you to have the freedom to do whatever you want with it. This is our recommendation, but it is editable for a reason. You can shift things around however you please, but that is our recommendation for the Apple Bundle in the year 2026 to 2027. Next up is the banana bundle. If you are using this bundle in 2026, 2027, here is how we recommend using it. So I've gone ahead and I've already pasted all of the banana content here. And let's just do a quick scan. My first thing is always to look at where the holidays fall. I think that is the most important thing to pay attention to. So first off, we have Christmas, lines up perfectly, beautiful. Next up, we have the tricky part, which is Easter. And guys, look at this. It already aligns perfectly. Amazing. Love this for us. Ascension and Pentecost, those don't line up totally perfectly, but if that is important to you, I think you could swap weeks 1 and 2 of One Small Step to make Ascension Sunday work with the curriculum for this particular bundle. But if that doesn't matter to you, then teach it as is. And that's it. I actually wouldn't change a thing for this bundle. It's already done for you. Now, again, you might be like, okay, but these colors, the white and the gray, don't line up. But here's the thing, guys. Once again, nobody says it's a rule that you have to start a new series on the first Sunday of the month. This has never been important to me. I understand that this is, a thing that many people do, but you don't have to do it. So if this is not lining up perfectly, there's a lot of things you could do. If this really matters to you, you could add kind of fifth Sundays. You could do different things to make it work on the calendar. But honestly, for me, I would just keep rolling because most kids in your ministry are not going to notice or care that you started to lead the way one day before September started. They're not going to care. They don't care. They're just excited to start a new series. So my recommendation, don't stress over it too much. We give you all of the content that you need for an entire year. You can see it here. So if you skip a week and do something else to make your months line up, you can do that, but then you're going to have curriculum left over at the end that you have to figure out what to do with. So our recommendation is to just roll through it. Even if the months do not line up perfectly, that is okay. You're going to be fine. The kids will be fine. If that does matter to you, then yes, feel free to edit this and move things around as you please. But our recommendation is just use this one as is for 2026 and 2027. Now, for those of you using the Lemon Bundle in 2026 and 2027, this one's going to require a little bit more creativity to make it fit into the year. But guys, that's what we do as children's ministry people. We are very creative. So don't stress. I'm going to show you how we recommend doing it And of course, if you want to do it a different way, you absolutely can. But let's go ahead and dive in here. I've already pasted in all of the lemon bundle content here. So let's see how it is flowing. All right, so we're starting off. The first thing we're going to do, as usual, is look for Christmas. Christmas lines up perfectly. Hooray, we love that. Now let's keep scrolling. Ooh, and here is where we see that we have to get creative because, you know, sometimes Easter lines up really beautifully. But if you haven't noticed, Easter is a weird holiday that floats around on the calendar in what feels like very unexpected ways sometimes. And so sometimes you're going to get a year of curriculum where Easter ends up in a weird place and you have to get a little creative to make it fit. But don't worry, we figured this out. There is a way to make it fit. Let me show you how. Okay, so for my own sanity, what I'm gonna do here is I'm actually gonna take this whole block right here from Miraculous all the way down through Full Bloom. That's 3 series worth. And I'm just gonna move them off to the side because that's just gonna help my brain visualize this a little bit better, okay? So those are just off to the side now. This is the area where I'm gonna be putting my finished product. Okay, so first thing I wanna do is I want Easter to line up perfectly. So I'm gonna take Full Bloom, which is our Easter series, and I'm gonna move it right over here. So now Easter Sunday and Good Friday, Palm Sunday, those line up correctly. That's wonderful. But now you're gonna see, okay, so after Easter, we have 3 weeks that need to be filled in. And before Easter, we have 6 weeks that need to be filled in. And we have plenty of curriculum to work with. We've got 4 weeks of Miraculous and we've got 5 weeks of Big Picture. But as you can see, it doesn't fit perfectly in here because, you know, it's kind of annoying to be like, okay, well, let me set up for one series, but then switch to another one and then another one and then switch back. We don't want to do all that. So I'm going to show you what I recommend in this situation that once in a while you're going to get where it gets a little bit tricky. So one thing to know about the Grow Kids scope and sequence is that when we talk about Jesus, many of those series are not totally chronological. They'll be in like the same general time frame, but they won't necessarily always be chronological. And part of that is just, you know, how the Gospels are written, but we also embrace that because it makes it a little bit easier for you to make changes to your calendar when you need to. And this is a great time when this might come into play. So in the original teaching calendar, we recommended doing Miraculous, which is a series on Jesus' miracles, then the series Big Picture, which is a series about Jesus' teachings. But because we've had to rearrange a couple things, we're actually going to switch this whole order. And remember, that's okay because these particular series are not meant to be chronological anyway. So here's what I recommend. I recommend taking Big Picture, which is a 5-week series, and I recommend putting it right here after Camp Believe It. So this is a new order for us. And I'm actually going to change the color of this so that you can see the change between Camp Believe It and Big Picture a little bit more easily. Now, we've got a 1-week block here, and we've got a 3-week block here, which I know can be a little weird. Here's what I recommend. Before you begin your Easter series, I actually recommend doing something a little bit different. Instead of doing a typical week of teaching, I recommend actually starting this Easter series off with something special. With Grow Kids, we provide these discipleship activities and we also provide these different events. And I think this week is a perfect week to kind of call an audible and not do a typical Sunday morning, but to actually do something a little bit special. The special thing I recommend doing for this particular bundle is the discipleship activity that is called the Grow with God experience. Now, this discipleship activity is uniquely designed to pair with the series Full Bloom. They both have this like really lovely garden theme, and so it works really, really perfectly with the Full Bloom series. And we give you flexibility when we give you this discipleship activity, and we tell you there's a lot of different ways you can use it. You can use it as like a special event that you sort of add on to your weekly teaching, or you can actually use it as your weekly teaching for the day and kind of make it like a special prayer experience. So this is one of those situations when I would definitely use it for that purpose. So what you could do is you could use it as like an intro into the whole series, but the Grow with God experience does have a little bit of a Stations of the Cross element where it's going to be leading kids into getting them to think about like Good Friday and the resurrection. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to move Full Bloom week 1 up here to the beginning of March. And then I actually recommend making week 2, instead of doing a week of regular teaching, I recommend making this your Grow with God experience. And again, this is going to be a little special event that you're going to do during your teaching time, but it's sort of like a prayer station experience for kids. So you're going to start the series off, you're going to do your Grow with God experience, then you're going to roll into Good Friday and Easter Sunday as usual. Now you have a decision that you get to make. You, again, have 4 weeks of Miraculous that you need to fit into your calendar somewhere because we have just added a week here, which means you're going to have a week of teaching left over that you can bank, use for an outreach event, use for maybe like the Sunday after VBS, or just use it maybe as like an extra day in VBS or something like that. You can use it for all sorts of stuff. So what you get to decide is, do you want to save a week of Full Bloom? You could maybe chop off the last week of Full Bloom, or do you want to make Miraculous a 3-week series instead of 4? Either one is cool. That is up to you. What I'm going to do, just because it lines up really nicely with the months, is I'm going to chop off week 4 of Full Bloom, and I'm going to save it for something else. This is the story of Jesus appearing to his disciples, and maybe you want to incorporate that in an outreach or something later. So let's just throw it at the end and just know that's a leftover week of curriculum you can use for whatever you want. And then let's move Miraculous to take up the whole month of April. And now look at how beautifully that fits into our calendar. It lines up with the months. So lovely. And I'm going to change this color so that you can see that that is one series. Okay, oops, and we can get rid of this because we've already placed that. Delete. There you go. That's what I recommend for the Lemon Bundle in 2026 and 2027. Now, for those of you who are using the Watermelon Bundle in 2026-2027, let's see how all of this lines up for you. I've gone ahead and pasted all of this in here, and I started scrolling, and things are looking pretty good. All the way through Christmas, things line up perfectly. Not only is Christmas lined up perfectly, but all of the month breaks are lining up perfectly as well. So we are getting pretty lucky with this alignment. However, as often happens, once you get to Easter, that's where things start to get a little tricky, because Easter, as we know, floats around on the calendar in ways that are sometimes unexpected and hard to plan for. But not to worry, we can problem solve this, because as you can see, our Sunday is not lining up perfectly with what it should be. But we're only 1 week off, so it's not a huge deal. We can figure out how to troubleshoot this. But just if you've watched our previous bundle tutorials, you'll know that when a situation like this happens, what we typically need to do is to choose a week of curriculum to pull out and then bank for later. So what you can do, I'll give you, you can do a few different things here. My recommendation is to pull a week out of Subscribe Now, because this is a 5-week series already. So if you pull out a week of Subscribe Now, then you're just going to have another 4-week series, which kids are accustomed to. You can delete a week from Challenge Accepted, but then you're going to end up with a 3-week series, which might feel a little short to kids. And it also means that you might have to turn over your room decorations a little bit faster. So with all that in mind, my recommendation is to pull a week out of Subscribe Now. So in this week, this series in particular, all of these weeks are fairly interchangeable. Like, you can pull a variety of them out and use them for different purposes. There's several weeks in here about Jesus like calling his disciples that might be good for like an outreach situation. But really take a look at the big ideas and see if there's one that you want to save for later. You could use it for an outreach event. You could use it for maybe like the Sunday after VBS ends if you're expecting a lot of visitors that week. There's a lot of things that you can use it for. So just choose one of those weeks and save it for later. I'm just going to choose week 5, but you can use any of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete it and shift up. And so you're going to see that now my Palm Sunday and Easter Sunday are aligned perfectly, which is great. Now I'm going to drop this at the end so that I remember that I have this floating week of curriculum I can do something else with later. But of course, you're going to see that because we moved everything up, we now have this like weird week where we don't have teaching for. So in order to fix this, what we now have to do is figure out how to add a week back in to the scope and sequence somewhere. Now, there's a lot of ways to do that. Some people like to do like fifth Sundays, different types of like events or like special things that you kind of just like add in. If that's part of your rhythm, something that you already like to do, then that's an easy solution here to just like add something in on any of these weeks that you would like to do that. But one thing that I recommend is actually taking one of Grow's discipleship activities or even an event if you'd like, and using that activity as your alternative to a typical Sunday morning. And in this bundle of curriculum specifically, I think there are actually two different discipleship activities that could work really well depending on what your goals are for your ministry. So the first one that I would recommend is a discipleship activity that is called Pray Station. And what this is it's a prayer experience for kids. And it's really just like walking them through how to pray. It's teaching them how to pray through these like really cool experiential prayers. It's a really, really lovely activity. And you could easily make that your whole Sunday morning. So that's one that you could add. Maybe you want to add it after Rise Up, which is our Easter series. You kind of throw that at the very end as maybe like a cool way to wrap up Easter. Like we're going to wrap up our whole Easter series by spending some time talking about prayer. That could be cool there. The other thing that you could do, and actually I do think this is the right spot to add whatever you do, is right after Rise Up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert cells and shift down. That's going to give me an extra week here. And I do want it to be white though. So let me just do this. Okay, there we go. So you could do Pray Station. The other discipleship activity that you could do here instead is actually one that's focused on sharing your story of faith. And this is a great time to do it because if you're familiar with the Grow strategy, you know that in the month of May, we actually switch to focus on the spiritual habit of sharing your story. So this would be a great thing to maybe plug in right there. And the discipleship activity for that spiritual habit, by the way, is called Kids Takeover. It's a really cool little idea where we encourage you to have kids take over the service. It is such a cute idea. We have all the instructions and stuff in that discipleship activity that is called Kids Takeover. But let's just say that's the one you decide to do. I'm going to put it right there. So if you do that special week right there, then your calendar is suddenly beautifully aligned again, and you have this extra week of teaching that you can plug into any outreach event or VBS or whatever else you would like to use it for. Now, for those of you who are using the Cherry bundle in 2026 and 2027, one thing I want to point out before we get into the details here is that you do have an extra week of curriculum to play around with here. Once in a while, we will give you 53 weeks of curriculum in an annual bundle because we know that every once in a while, you end up with a year that has 53 Sundays instead of 52. So just to help you with that, occasionally we will include 53 weeks instead of 52, and this is one of those bundles. So just keep that in the back of your mind because if we get into a situation where we decide to pull a week of teaching out, and save it for something else, you know that you already have one extra week that you can kind of play around with. So let's see how we're doing with this year's alignment. All right, so getting off to a good start here. August and September align beautifully. Now, October and November they still align, but they are, you've got a 5-weeker and a 4-weeker. What you could do here if you want to, like if this bothers you, that Big and Small is a 5-week series during a 4-week month, and Played It is a 4-week series during a 5-week month. You could definitely swap the order of those series. Like I've said before, I don't think this is personally a huge deal. Like if you don't necessarily start a series on the exact first Sunday of the month, it's okay. You can just roll into the next one and it will all even out in the end. But if you do like to have that nice cohesive alignment, you can definitely switch these two around. It's not going to hurt the chronology of the way that we're teaching the Bible in this case. So go ahead and do it. That's totally fine. All right, Christmas aligns perfectly. That's great. But as often happens, once we get to Easter is where we start to see things getting out of whack. It would be so nice if Easter was always in the same week of every year, but unfortunately it is not. So this is where we have to get creative, which Of course, we already are because we do children's ministry. So we do have a plan for this. Let me show you what it is. So in this particular situation, we have to figure out how to move Easter up 3 whole weeks, which is a bigger gap than what we have in some other bundles. But once again, we can do it. But just to make this a little bit easier on me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these, actually I'll move all 3 of these series off to the right. And what that's going to do is it's just going to help me make a little bit more sense of this and visualize it a little bit better. So those are off to the right now, and we know we can move things around. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Easter series and I'm going to put it in the correct place so that our Palm Sunday and Easter Sundays line up correctly. Now, what we have here is we have a little bit of a weird situation where we've got 5 weeks before this Easter series and 3 weeks after this Easter series, but we only have 2 4-week series. So something has to get adjusted here. And that's okay. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. So I'm going to show you the way that I would do it. But if you want to do it a different way, please know that you absolutely can. That's why we make this editable, so that you can do this however makes the most sense for you. So just remember, you've got freedom. I'm just going to show you what I would do, and you can agree or disagree, whatever you please. So the first thing that I would plan to do is to actually do something a little special right here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to merge these cells. So here's the thing. We've got 4 weeks right here, which is a great spot for a 4-week series. You could put either of these series here, Opposite Day or Page Turner. Opposite Day is the original series that was there, so I'm going to go ahead and just put it back. And we'll delete that so that it is not a duplicate. And then we're going to put Page Turner below Did You Know, which is our Easter series. Now, here's where you have a choice. You've only got 3 open weeks here, but you have 4 weeks of Page Turner. So there's 1 week of curriculum that I would recommend just pulling out and saving for later. So whichever week that is totally up to you. It is nice if you can kind of pull this one out, just because then you can have a nice cohesive experience for Did You Know in the month of March, and then a brand new series in the month of April. So if that works for you, let's do it. This is a particular week about Jesus appearing to his disciples after the resurrection. So let's post that down here and just know that we can save that for later. And let's move Page Turner right there. Now let's go back to where I said let's do something special here. Once in a while, you probably do this already, there is like a certain Sunday where it's just kind of, it works to just do something different that Sunday to change things up. And I think this is a great opportunity for something like that. So this first week of March, I would recommend using this to do something special that introduces the series Did You Know? Now, Did You Know is a game show themed series. It is a really, really fun series. So think, like any game show that you would watch on TV. Like that's the whole like experience of the series. And it's like trivia based. It's like, oh, did you know this? Like all of the big ideas for the weeks are formulated like a fun fact. So there's a lot of things you could do. You could do your own game show that week, and you could just do like either Bible trivia, or you could do like review of like things that kids have learned throughout the year. You could do all sorts of fun stuff. So you could do something like that introduces the series. You could take a more serious route if you'd like to, and you could maybe do like a prayer experience. With Grow, we have a lot of different prayer experiences that you could use here. We do have inside of the Cherry bundle, we do have a discipleship activity that is called Crossway Station. That is a Stations of the Cross experience. That might make a little bit more sense to come after Easter if you're going to do that, but you could definitely take the ideas in there and use it as an intro into the Easter story if you would like to. So let's just plan to do something special this week, either Crossway Station or something of your own invention that works with the Did You Know series. And down here, we actually have 2 extra weeks of curriculum left over. We have this week that we pulled out of Did You Know, and then we also have an extra week of Up in the Air, which is our Elijah series. So it's up to you what you want to do with these series, with these extra weeks that you pulled out. You could maybe combine them into weeks that already exist. You could save them for something else, all sorts of things that you can do with them. But, don't lose them, because you have them. You should use them for something. So keep them in a little vault somewhere and do something cool with them. Now, if you're using the strawberry bundle in 2026, 2027, let me show you how that is going to work on your calendar for this year. All right, so we are scrolling down to Christmas. That still lines up very, very nicely. That is great news. But now you'll start to see that we have a little bit of complication with our Easter, as is often the case. It is always often not on the right week. But that's okay. We know how to fix this. We've got it. So what we need to do here is we need to figure out how to move all of this up by 1 week. So we're going to move Rise and Shine up 1 week. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. The simplest way is to choose 1 week of either Measure Up, How To, or Changing Gears that you want to pull out and save for later. So it could be anything. It could be any of these series that you would like. I'd maybe choose like either this one, because Measure Up is already a 5-week series. So if you reduce it to 4, then it's a normal length of a series. You can trim one of the 4-week series and do just a 3-week series, although that can sometimes feel a little bit short to a kid, and it might be, a little quick of a turnover for when you have to like redecorate for a new series. So it's totally up to you. My recommendation is to take out 1 week of Measure Up and save it for later, just so that you've got multiple 4-week series and not like a 5-week and then a 3-week, and it can just be a lot. So let's save week 5 for later. You can use that for an outreach event, for VBS. You can use it for all sorts of stuff. So let's move that one. That was Measure Up week 5. We pasted that at the bottom. Now let's move all of these up a little bit. Alrighty. All right, so now this is great. We've got Palm Sunday, Good Friday, Easter Sunday, all in the same spot. Love that. That's amazing. But we also have things are a little bit off now, so we just need to figure out how to rearrange things to make them work a little bit better. And the good news is, in this bundle, we have created a discipleship activity that I think works perfectly as a way to fill in one of these weird weeks to basically create an additional week of teaching. So Rise and Shine is our Easter series, and then right after it, we get into the early church. And this is what we sometimes will say is like our evangelism-focused series, because it's talking about like the early church, of course, where the gospel was spreading all over the world. But May, the month of May right here, is also the start of our focus in the Grow Strategy on the spiritual habit of sharing your story. So my recommendation is to add an extra week right here in between Rise and Shine and Heroic. So we're going to shift these down and use our discipleship activity that is in this bundle. It is called the My Storybook Challenge. And this whole challenge, this discipleship activity, is focused on helping kids communicate their story of faith and share it with others. So this is such a good activity to do right here in between Easter and the early church, when you're helping kids start to think about what it means to actually share the good news of Jesus. And it's going to fit in so nicely chronologically with all of the stories that you're talking about in these two series. So let's add that right here. And then we'll scroll down, and everything else is still lining up. You've got curriculum for every single week, plus this one that is left over that you can use for an outreach or VBS or whatever else you would like to do with it. And finally, we have the Grape bundle. If you are using this bundle for 2026 and 2027, the first thing I want to point out to you is that this bundle comes with 53 weeks of teaching. Most of the time, our bundles come with 52, but once in a while, you'll get one that has 53 weeks just to help make up for those years that sometimes will have 53 Sundays in them. So this is one of those rare bundles. So just know that as we're making adjustments to this, that you already have one extra week of teaching that you can kind of like mess around with. So you have a little bit of extra margin, extra wiggle room to make some changes. All right, so let's scroll back up to the top and see how all of this is lining up. Alrighty, so this is one of those rare situations where Christmas does actually not align perfectly with the year. Typically, because Christmas doesn't move around that much on the calendar, unlike Easter, which is all over the place, typically our bundles will line up pretty well with Christmas. But this one in particular does not, just because of the way that the calendar falls. And that's okay, because there's all sorts of creative things that we can do to make this work. So here's what I recommend to get Christmas to align more beautifully with where it actually falls on the calendar. I recommend adding 1 week right here. So we're going to add that. We're going to shift those down. So in addition to our teaching curriculum, every bundle that we create provides a discipleship activity and an event for the winter time. And oftentimes these things are actually Christmas themed. And in this particular bundle, I think either our discipleship activity or our Christmas event could actually work really, really well right here in this week before you begin your Christmas series. If you're in the US and you celebrate Thanksgiving that week, just know that this is Thanksgiving week. This is the Sunday after Thanksgiving. So the two things that we recommend doing here, choose one. Just pick your favorite. The discipleship activity for this one is a discipleship activity that is called Give to Grow. And so this is an activity that's going to help kids figure out how to use their gifts to serve others. And so I think that's a great activity that you can do here. And so just instead of doing a regular teaching time, let's see, Give to Grow. There we go. Instead of doing a regular teaching time, we recommend turning your typical Sunday service into something a little bit special to do this discipleship activity as a whole group. Do that all together. So you can do the Give to Grow activity right there. If you would rather do something more fun and just kind of silly because the holidays are coming, it's like a holiday weekend if you're celebrating Thanksgiving, then you could actually do the Christmas event that we provide, which is called the Joy Jam. So that would totally take the place of your typical Sunday morning programming. Would maybe be more of a departure than from what you typically do, but you could, in theory, do that as well. But my top recommendation is the Give to Grow discipleship activity. Now, if you have watched my walkthroughs of the other bundles, then you might know that I like to do as few tweaks as possible to make this work, but this is going to be one of those situations where I maybe get a little extra creative. So bear with me, but I'm going to show you how to do it. So just to keep things a little bit easier on all of our eyes, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to highlight all of these series. These are all of our New Testament series for January through May. I'm going to copy them and I'm going to just move them over here. So that's going to be a little bit easier for me to keep track of what I have. And then we'll consider this area like the final place where I put things in their final locations. So the first thing we'll do is we're going to put Easter in the right spot. Okay, so let's take that one and we're going to paste it right here. So that is level up. That is now in the correct spot. Amazing. Great. All right, so now we have to figure out how to fill in all of these blanks as well as these blanks using all of this stuff over here. Now, here's something that you need to know about the series that we're working with right here. Unboxed is a bit of a unique series for us because it is not chronological. Typically, we are doing like chronological stories from Scripture, but Unboxed is sort of a topical series. It is talking about our spiritual gifts, and it is talking about all sorts of different things. And so the great thing about this series is that it can easily be broken up into pieces and used in like two parts if we want to. Because if you teach them out of order or in like two segments, it's not going to hurt the series. The other thing that's really nice about this series is that it's a pretty simple decorating theme. It's just like presents. And so anytime that you teach the series, you can just decorate for a party because it's just presents. That's all it is. It's very, very simple. So you can keep your decorating really nice and easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of use this series as like a fill-in for us. So we're going to place the other series first, and then we're going to split up Unboxed into two segments and use it to fill in like the weird blanks that we're going to get. So bear with me, but here's how we're going to do it. So just know that we're going to do that with Unboxed. So then we have Real Love, which is a series on Jesus teachings. We have Revealed, which is a series on Jesus parables. And then we have Go, which is our series from the early church. Now this one makes sense to go after Easter because of chronological teaching. But the other two really probably make more sense before Easter happens. So let's do this. Let's do Revealed. Let's place that over here in January because this is a 5-week series and this is a 5-week month. So that lines up really nicely. And I'm going to delete that from over here so that we don't have duplicates. Alrighty. Then we have, we've got 4 weeks. And then we have 2 weeks that we need to figure out how to fill. So Real Love is a great series for the month of February when we're talking about Valentine's. And so I think that makes sense to keep in February. You know, it's just a great, nice calendar alignment. So let's leave that there. And that leaves us with 2 kind of weird weeks right here. So let's go ahead and dip into Unboxed and we'll place it right there. And then we've got Go. So this is our series on the early church. And like I said, this makes a lot of sense to go right after Easter. Now, there's a couple things we could do. We could put it right after Easter if we would like to. But if you look at these holidays right here, Ascension and Pentecost, it is kind of nice if we're like trying to get in the same vicinity of when Ascension Sunday and Pentecost Sunday happen on the church calendar. So we've still got 3 weeks of Unboxed and we have 5 weeks of Go. So watch this. If we put Go right there, Ascension and Pentecost are lined up really nicely. And then we can do Unboxed right here. And that lines up pretty good. So you can definitely do it that way. If you're like, oh, I don't really want to do Unboxed, then Level Up, and then go back to Unboxed, that's totally okay. There's another way we could do this. We could take this out and we'll put it off to the side for now. Then let's move all of this up. And maybe you're like, hey, I don't actually care if the Ascension story lines up with Ascension Sunday. Awesome, great. So what we can do then is we can do Level Up, go straight into Go, and then just keep teaching as normal. And if you recall, we already had that extra week of teaching here in the calendar. And so we actually are only missing 1 week of teaching, but we have 3 weeks left over. So what you could do is you could just choose your favorite week of Unboxed and just put it anywhere on this calendar that makes sense for a special one-off Sunday if you would like to. If we're talking about spiritual gifts, this might actually be like a really cool thing that you could do right before the school year begins. If you're talking about how we can like use our gifts to serve or use our gifts to like share the good news of Jesus, maybe that's like a cool kind of like final Sunday of the summer before the new school year starts, and you could just place that down there. There's a lot of ways that you could do that, but either of those options that I just walked you through will work. Or, you know what, you can come up with your own unique solution, because that's what's so cool about this tool is that you can feel free to customize it for the thing that makes the most amount of sense for you and your church. But that's just our recommendation. Those are 2 ways that you can use this particular model in 2026 and 2027. So there you have it, friends. That is your walkthrough of this new tool from Grow Kids Curriculum. I hope it helps you figure out how you want to use this curriculum in your upcoming school year. If you have questions or you just want to talk through some of these options with our team, please do. Our team is ready and excited to chat with you and talk through all of these options. So whether that is you just want some clarity of what we recommend and why, or you just want somebody that you can like bounce ideas off of and kind of workshop this with, please give us a call. Our team would love to chat with you and figure this out together. Bye.